teach me about threat modeling? I can. Let's do a tech talk. Who's attending Day of Security? I am. Let's meet up to discuss. Congratulations on your promotion to CISO. Tell us your path to get there. Okay, let's do a speaker series. These are just a snippet of the conversations that can take place within a Women in Security employee resource group. Does your company lack a Women in Security group? Or as I like to say, no Women in Security group, no problem. Hi, everybody. My name is Katelyn Falk, and I'm the co-founder of Zoom's Women in Security Employee Resource Group. And today I'm going to talk to you about creating a Women in Security group at your company. So a little bit about me before we jump in. I'm very excited to be here today. I was just energized hearing the keynote, and I just sat through a panel, and very excited to be here. This is my first time speaking at Day of Security. So I'm currently a principal security technical program manager at Zoom. I'm based in the Seattle area, and I'm fully remote, which is really cool. I started out my career as a technical writer. I moved into IT for a little bit. I spent some time in consulting, all before I began focusing on cybersecurity. I spent some time at Microsoft as a security PM, and then I got the call from Zoom to come help build out their security organization. Now, this was in the heat of the pandemic, and I really jumped at that opportunity. I was really excited to be supporting a tool that a lot of the world was relying on at that time. I've been at Zoom now for a little over 3 years. I just had my 3-year anniversary, which was a big deal for me. And during that time, I've supported a couple of different teams within our CISO organization, all from a TPM perspective. I've supported our enterprise security team, working closely with our partners in IT. I've supported our global security and resilience team. So think physical security as well as executive protections. That was a really cool opportunity. I went on maternity leave. I had a baby. I came back. And now I'm focused on product security from a security testing perspective with our engineering security teams. All of this while creating and driving engagement within Zoom's Women in Security group with a lot of help. I'll touch on that more. So let's talk more about creating your Women in Security group and how you can do that. Before we talk about the how, I want to briefly touch on the why. I think it's really important that we touch on this just briefly before we get into the details of how you can do this. I've broken this out into kind of 4 rather large areas, but I think before we dive into those, I think most of us know, or we've even heard, today in the keynote and throughout different sessions, that the cybersecurity industry is very male dominated. I think our numbers right now, women make up around 24% of the cybersecurity workforce. And then I just recently learned that only about 70% of Fortune 500 CISOs are women. And those numbers are just way too low, as we all know. So we, along with our allies, have a lot of work that we need to do to help shift those numbers up. And I believe that having and creating a Women in Security group at your companies and participating in them can help push those numbers up over time. Now, as I mentioned, there's sort of 4 areas that we'll talk through just briefly about why. One of those is maybe one of the most obvious. It's the first one there is community and the sense of community that's created when you are able to stand up a Women in Security group. I'd say it doesn't matter if your company's remote, hybrid, or probably a blend of those. Having a sense of community that's created within the group and with allies is very, very powerful. Second is that representation shift. And what I mean by that is, the 24% and the 17% that I had just mentioned, when you step into events or engagement within a Women in Security group, you watch those numbers shift from 24 or 17, close, if not to 100%, which I think some of us are probably experiencing maybe for the first time today at this conference, which is a very amazing experience. It also leads to that number 3 that's there around shields down. I think I've seen a lot of this just in the chat channels today of people, talking through maybe some self-doubt or some concerns that they're having and really feeling comfortable being able to put their shields down a little bit and say, hey, I'm interested in doing XYZ, but I need some help. How can I lean into my community and really be able to, whether it's find a new job or just navigate a difficult situation. And then the last one there around resources and knowledge. You'll really see as the group is stood up and matures over time, you'll really see the resources and knowledge within that group and within its members grow, share knowledge. One thing that I like to do is come to our Women in Security group first, if it makes sense, to ask who can teach me about this technology or about this process or about this problem that I'm having. and really using that group to grow your resources and your knowledge. These are just 4 areas of why that I've identified as I've done some of this work, but I'm sure others have more to share. If you do, please throw it in the chat channel if you've experienced some positive interactions with a women in security group, or even if you're thinking of creating your own. Um, so let's talk about the how. Today we're going to talk through what I'm calling 4 steps to success to create your women in security group at your company. Step 1, establishing your group leadership team. We'll talk about how you can do that and what that role means. Step 2, we'll talk about the importance of creating a mission statement and goals, and we'll briefly touch on some different resources that you can leverage as you go out and get those documented. Step 3, recruit and retain your members. We'll talk about how you can do this and what that looks like over time. And then step 4, listening and adjust. We'll talk about how you can do that as your group is stood up and matures over time, and the importance of listening to your group. All right, 4 steps to success to create your women in security group. Are we ready? Okay, let's do it. Now, right out of the gate, I want you to ask yourself, are you ready to lead your women in security group? That's our step 1. Now, I hope that by seeing many of you in the audience today that your answer is yes, but I know I went through it myself that there are some concerns that you have. So as I've gone out and talked to different women, these are some of the 4 areas that I like to address right out of the gates. And we'll talk through these in just a little bit of detail, but I like to see some chat in the some conversations in the chat if this is something that you're concerned about, and I'd like to hear a little bit more if there's others that fall outside of these 4 as well. So I like to start out by saying that you do not need a budget to get a women in security group up and running. The biggest resource that you're going to need is time. You're going to need your own time. If you're concerned about this, talk to your manager about your day-to-day responsibilities. Talk with a coworker. You have the possibility to divide and conquer this leadership role. If you caught earlier, I did mention that I'm the co-founder of Zoom's Women in Security Group, which means that I have not done this work alone. I have a great co-founder, and we've been able to divide and conquer and really rely on each other to help support the group, as well as amazing volunteers that have stood up over time to help support the group as well. So just remember, you're not alone. Talk to somebody, whether it's your manager or maybe just a coworker, about your thoughts of stepping into this role, and see if anyone has interest or if they are able to support you with some of your concerns around time. Don't let time or your concern for time get in your way. Now, you may be asking yourself, wait a minute, did she just say I don't need any budget? How am I going to secure speakers or tooling that I'm going to need for the group? I would say that you don't need any fancy tooling, and I want you to think about it for a moment. You already have many resources at your fingertips that you most likely use to do your day-to-day job. You have your team chats, you have your video conferencing system, you have your calendaring tools. Use the tools that you already have as you get going to get your group up and running. Now, over time, those needs of the group may change, but I would say to get this up and running that you have the majority of the tools at your fingertips now. Now, last but not least, and my personal favorite that I have up here is self-doubt. I've seen it come up multiple times across a few different chats that I've seen today, and I think it definitely applies to stepping into a leadership role to create a women in security group as well. I would say for myself personally, I really struggled with this, and there's days in my day-to-day job that I do struggle with this as well. Specifically to the women in security group, I'd say I sat back for a little bit and I waited for someone else to step into the role. I actually had this idea in my mind that another person that I was working with at the time had an interest to do this and that she would be better at it than I would. And this is something that I never had a conversation with her about. I simply had made up this story in my mind of, oh, she's going to step in and, maybe I'll play a supportive role. And it actually took that person leaving the company for me to see that noticeable gap to say, okay, why can't I step into this? Like, I can carve out some time, I can start with 5 minutes a week, 10 minutes a week, and build up if I need to. So I do like to tell that story because, again, it was something that I really struggled with on my own. I never spoke out. I never asked for help. And it really took that person leaving for me to step up into that space. So I would say if you struggle with self-doubt as it relates to creating women in security group, reach out to me, reach out to your manager, reach out to one of your coworkers and let them know that you're thinking of doing this, but maybe you have some concerns. Why not you? I have no doubt that you can do it and that you'll be able to do it well. So again, this is our step 1. I know that's a lot to unpack there. Think about the time commitment, speak to somebody, Don't worry about your budget and your tooling to get it up and running. You can do it. Okay, moving along to our step 2, which I have called out as creating your mission statement and goals. Now, the mission statement is key to set the foundation for the group and the starting point to be able to set goals for the group. My recommendation would be to get your mission statement documented. Here's one that you can use as an example. Get your mission statement documented, get it in front of the group or people that you think would be part of the group, and keep it there. It's going to be one of the main pieces of documentation that a potential executive sponsor will want to see and discuss with you. If you have a DE&IT at your company, they will most likely want to see this and offer feedback. Hopefully your CISO will want to see it as well. Welcome feedback and adjust that mission statement as needed. Now, as you get out there and you write your mission statement, you don't have to start from scratch. There are tons of amazing women in security focus groups and conferences like we're at today that you can pull inspiration from. The key is to customize that mission statement for how you would like to see the group. And you know your company best for being able to sort of tweak that to fit your company and your own needs. Last year, Cybercrime magazine published an article listing 50 women in cybersecurity associations and groups to follow. I'd highly recommend taking a look there. If you don't, just Google 50 women in cybersecurity associations, or I can drop it in the chat later and you'll see that pop up. It's a great summary of 50 different groups that you can take a look at in order to start crafting that mission statement. Again, you don't have to start from nothing. There's many that are out there. Take a screenshot of the one that's here. I'll drop the link to the slides after. You can start from here. Now, shifting to goals just briefly. As you're starting out, I want you to keep those goals simple because, again, we do have to think about that concern of time and think about different tools and resources, again, that you have at your fingertips. Keep them realistic when it comes to time in terms of time frame. One of the examples that I have here is to drive member participation and engagement via group events. Now, again, those group events may look different if you're in a hybrid or remote or in-person environment. An example that you'll hear me touch on here and in a couple other slides, something that we did at Zoom was to conduct a speaker series event at least once a quarter. So in my mind, I'm using internal speakers, which are free, and we get to drive our sense of community by getting to know each other. And we said at least once a quarter. So I'm setting the bar at, okay, we have to do this at least 4 times a year. Something that was very successful and something that I'll touch on a little bit here. But again, step 2, creating your mission statement and your goals. Get that mission statement documented, get it in front of the people that are going to be supporting your group or that are allies of that group, and then keep it very simple when it comes to your goals initially. And I do have an ask for all of you, kind of an action item takeaway as it relates to step 2 here, but we'll touch on that at the end. Okay, now step 3, recruit and retain members. Now this is my favorite step because it's about the members. So remember earlier when I mentioned that you don't need fancy tooling? A real life example of what we did at Zoom to recruit and retain those members was to use some of our internal tools that we have. At Zoom, we created a Zoom team chat channel and named it, you guessed it, Women in Security. We scrubbed our women in security across our CISO organization and we put them in that team chat. And we said, hey, we're thinking of creating a group. By the way, you have a calendar invite on your calendars for kickoff meetings for 20, 30 minutes. Join if you can. If not, we'll share the recording afterwards. We used, like I said, a simple calendar invite, shared our mission statement, shared a couple of those very simple and realistic timeframe goals. And people were very excited. The women were very excited that the group was being stood up. They wanted to participate. They were feeling represented. We received a lot of ideas and feedback of what women wanted to see in the group and what they wanted to see out of the group. But we didn't get a lot of people saying, I'd like to volunteer or I can offer up my time, which is absolutely okay. We continued to put what we called a call for support or a call for volunteers and kept asking for volunteers to be able to help support the group. Now, once we recruited those members, you have to keep them engaged in one way or another, whether it's events or trainings, whatever it may be. And those are all opportunities to be able to retain those members. Each member is different. They want to see something different, but listen to the majority of your group. One great way to do this by retaining them is through events. At Zoom, we created a speaker series, like I mentioned earlier, that was essentially free. We just needed folks' time to be able to share a little bit about their journeys into cybersecurity, some fun facts about themselves, if they wanted to share pictures, whatever it may be. We recorded those. People were able to ask questions and really start to get to know some of their fellow women in security, which was a great event that we did. Um, they potentially shared some, or they shared some hardships that they had to overcome, much of like some women are doing today, and offer advice to others. And this was a great series to kick off the group because it really helped build our sense of community, like I mentioned earlier, and bring those members together. Some other ideas or events that you may want to think about. You could do a book or an article club that you could do, on a monthly or quarterly basis. You could do virtual meetups. You could do in-person meetups. You could say, hey, let's get lunch today. Let's grab a coffee today. You could keep it really informal, whatever your group would like to see. You could do email blasts. You could do newsletters, whatever it may be. You know your group members the best and kind of how your company or some of the tools that your company may offer that you can leverage. All right, so that's step 3, recruit and retain your members. Let's keep moving so that I can get to our action item at the end. So step 4 is listening and adjust. Now, as your women in security group grows and matures over time, the members' needs will most likely shift. Please listen to your women in security members, conduct regular surveys if you can, share those results with the group. Think about using, a simple Google form or any type of surveying tool that you have at your fingertips. Share those results with your group, like I said. Break down how you, as the leader or leaders, will act on the results of those surveys. Continue to ask for volunteers if you need help. Don't stop doing that. Put a reminder on your calendar. Do it, every quarter, whatever it may be. Feedback will come in many different ways outside of the survey too. This may take the form of women wanting to reach out and share their ideas one-on-one, whether it's in person or on a call, stop you in the hallway and share feedback or ideas. Take in all that feedback and document it so that you're able to action on it as time allows. Allies will reach out wanting to get involved, wanting to support the group. You'll see amazing conversations in chat channels and during events. Just absorb that like a sponge so that you're able to really get a feel for how the group is doing. And as step 4 says, you can listen and adjust over time. Now, as you make those adjustments to the group, as a result of the survey feedback, one great example of this that we did at Zoom was we transitioned away from those speaker series, like I mentioned earlier, after the group had said, okay, we've got to know each other pretty well. I think our speaker series have really ran their course. I'd really like to get into some technical training. So we saw that through our surveys and, in some of our event feedback. So we said, okay, what should we start with? And we said, I think threat modeling, we're focusing on that a little bit right now. Does anybody want to do sort of a 101 lesson with us? So we had a wonderful volunteer that stepped forth, and she started off our technical training series with Threat Modeling 101, which was really great. We recorded the session. We shared links afterwards. So we really used that as an idea and a great idea from our members and a way to listen and adjust as that group was stood up and matured over time. Now, I did mention earlier that I do have an ask of all of you. I have a challenge for all of you, whether you are sold after listening to this on creating a women in security group or not. My ask of you would be to please think about creating a mission statement. Even if you just scribble it down right now or you type a note in your phone, I'd ask that you try and create a mission statement for a women in security group. And I would like for you to share it with someone. I'd like for you to share it with a coworker, a friend, and I want you to see where that conversation takes you. Grab coffee, jump on a call, and I'd like for you to share that mission statement with them. And I'd like for you to see where that conversation takes you in terms of someone saying, oh, I didn't know that you had an interest in creating women in security group. I do too, or I know someone else that might, or you'd be great, or, oh, I'd tweak this word, or maybe have some feedback on that mission statement. It also helps a little bit with that self-doubt that I talked about earlier. This is sort of a small step that you can take. You don't have to say, yes, I'm signed up to do this right now, but I'm hoping that it will sort of lead you down that path a little bit closer. If you're up for it, I'd love to hear any stories that you have afterwards if you're able to do this. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me an email, find me today. Let's chat. I'd love to connect. Please use me as a resource as you step into the space of becoming a leader and creating your Women in Security group. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. I hope that you have a great day at Day of Security, and share your recordings with your group. If you don't have a Women in Security group yet, this is a great way to start and say, hey, I attended this event. It really got me thinking. Share resources, share links once they're ready, and find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you all. Thank you, everybody.